All right, so my name's Justin. Just give you a little bit of history. I started doing collections in 2001. I just happened to have fallen into the industry. I was like most guys. I started doing trades, hurt myself, needed a job. Well, met a girl at the bar. She's like, come work here. So I went, I started working there and realized I could make some pretty good money talking to people on the phone. After a couple of years, I moved into a supervisory role, and after a couple more years, I moved into a management role overseeing a multi-million-dollar branch here in Edmonton. I had at one point 250 people in the branch, worked every piece of paper imaginable. $5 T3 account for Surrey Memorial Hospital, that was one of my favorite ones, all the way up to $500,000 commercial accounts that I would collect on. So I've got a little bit of experience in collections. I started managing an attorney network across Canada in 2006. So I managed every law firm that we dealt with for the entire organization. NCO was the company that I had worked for, 10 years that I'd spent there. We probably generated, just out of our legal side, about $3.5 to $4 million revenue. So probably $10 to $12 million in gross recoveries just off of our legal program that I was responsible for. So again, just a little bit of experience in that. So one of the things that I really want to kind of talk about is collections in general. Show of hands, as a business owner, who's owed you money and not paid? Whoa. All right, so half the room or more, right? Show of hands, as that business owner, have you ever called the person that owes you that money and not acted professional? Have you ever sworn at them, insulted them, belittled them, threatened them? I'm going to say, you know, as a business owner myself, as a small business owner, I've been there. I know it's not the easiest thing to do, and money, unfortunately, is the bloodline in and out of your company. If you don't have the money coming in for the work that you've done, you don't have the money to move on to the next job in a lot of cases, unless you have a really, really good investor. So the truth is, when it comes to collections and when it comes to money, people are more comfortable talking about sex, politics, and religion than they are talking about money. Seriously, think about it for a second. For all of you guys that are on Facebook, when you sit there and scroll through your app, what do you see? Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton. You see ads of naked women. You see all of this stuff, and people are commenting everywhere, but you very rarely see ads about collections, ads about how to get out of debt, ads about those types of items. So you're often seeing all of that sort of stuff. It goes to show you where people put money and where people actually put their focus on. When it comes to past due accounts, I personally believe that it boils down to one of two things. I can't pay, or I won't pay. That's what I truthfully believe in the 16, 17 years that I've been doing collections. It's one of those two items. How do you determine if it's an I can't or an I won't? Ideally, what I'd like to do is I'm going to just touch on 3 quick topics that I believe will help anybody that is owed money be able to identify that. So the first thing, that I suggest people do is remove the emotion. That's one of the big items. I opened up a staffing agency. I was like, well, you know, I've interviewed lots of people for many, many years. I'm going to jump in, open up a staffing agency. I had a client bounce a lot of money on me, and I called him in a very emotional state. Probably wasn't the best way to go, but, you know, I threw everything out the window. Everything I knew was, you know, from collections, you take the emotion out. Well, I didn't. So although you may take it that it is personal, keep in mind it's a business transaction, okay? It's not personal. It is strictly a business transaction. So the more that you can remove the emotion from this, the more traction you're going to gain with that person. I can't tell you how many times over the years I've heard they were rude to me. all the way from CRA, I used to love those ones, all the way down to the way that Direct Energy talked to them. Well, they were in the Philippines, they didn't speak English, and they talked to me poorly. A lot of times, these people would have that emotional involvement, or other bill collectors. Paul used to work with me. How many times we would get accounts from a previous agency, and we would get the accounts paid out strictly because we didn't have the emotion. A lot of collectors will go in there and it's guns blazing, they're going full blown, it's emotional. Take the emotion out in order to gain that traction with the person that owes you some money. Listen, this is really hard. I found something the other day, and I took a photo of it. It's just fell right into what I'm talking about. But it says the biggest communication problem is we don't listen to understand, we listen to reply. It's so very true. So think back when you made that phone call to somebody that did some work for you, or somebody that you did some work for, they owe you some money. They say, oh, well, and what's the first thing that's in your head? If he says I can't pay or I don't have the money, you're already contemplating your response. A lot of times that response is less than unemotional. You've got that very emotional response built in. So take the time to listen. This one, the next point is, I call it assess, decide, and act. So assess what your current processes and procedures are for people that owe you money. You look at companies like Capital One. They have a 90-day no payment policy. You don't pay in 90 days, your card is essentially canceled, and you move over into a collections status. That is their process, that is their policy, but they've had to assess their business needs and their business model to make sure that it makes sense. Decide as to what you're going to do. So once you've assessed and you've created this policy, you've created a procedure, make sure that that is what you are going to do all the time. Because if you start going and making a change every now and again, making concessions here and there, you actually get away from having structure. And then act. I love this one. Act on what you're going to do. You may know that the person has money. You may know that the person just landed a big contract. Act as you're going to act. If it's a matter of sending the account to collections, send it to collections regardless of, well, it might cost me a little bit in contingency, it might cost me a little bit in money. Make sure that as you're going through your processes that you act accordingly. If you have timelines put into place, act on those timelines. If you say you're going to sue somebody, make sure you actually follow through and do it, because if you don't, you lose credibility, and it actually hurts the people that are trying to collect the money for you after the fact. It will impede their ability to help get the money collected for you. I don't know if that's my time or not. So those are a lot of items those are three real big items that I've always preached, I've always talked to people about, and I've always said, you really have to look at doing that. It'll go a long way in getting your money recovered. What we do through Paige Martin is we are a law firm. We act as a legal collections for people, for small to mid-sized companies is kind of where we would like to really maintain in our marketplace. I don't want CIBC as a client. I don't want Capital One as a client. I just don't want those as clients. I want people that go to work every day, they're on the tools, they own a business. That money is hard-earned money that needs to be put back into their company. Our services obviously aren't free, so we do charge a contingency. Now, our contingency is a lot lower than what a typical collection agency would charge. Anybody deal with collection agencies? No? Yeah? What did they charge you for? Enough. I've seen them go as high as 65% contingency. So keep in mind, somebody owes you 10 grand, okay? Here's the math for you. They owe you $10,000. They want to be able to settle for 80 cents on the dollar. So already you're saying, I'm going to eat $2,000 if they collect all the money. Plus they want 65% of that $8,000, plus GST. How much do you actually walk away with if they're successful in collecting that? Not very much, right? We've developed a system that puts more money back into the company's pocket. Our contingency is flat. We don't go above it. That's a flat contingency. Because we're a law firm, we can sue. In Alberta, you don't have to be a lawyer to appear in small claims. So I do all small claims actions in the province of Alberta under the watchful eye of a lawyer who's been doing this for 30 years. He makes sure that all of my paperwork is correct. If I have any questions about the lawsuit, if I have any questions about a contract, I go to him, he answers those questions. I'm able to pass those cost savings on to the companies. A lot of people turn around and it's, well, this guy owes me money, so I'm gonna turn around and go drop $2,500 on a law firm and then, pay $400 or $500 an hour. Not always the best way to go. So we take a holistic approach on helping that person that we're talking to, the person that owes you money. We take a holistic approach to what their situation is. Is it an I can't situation? If it's an I can't situation, why is it I can't? Do they have problems with their receivables coming in? We can offer a solution. We can handle their receivables for them while working out a structure to get your money put back into your company. Solution number one. Is it an I can't because, they've got a lot of debt? We offer a debt restructuring program to help them restructure all of their debt and be able to free up capital to pay off their debt. We also have a pretty broad network of lenders, various lenders that we use across Canada. That gives them access to capital that they otherwise wouldn't necessarily have, or avenues that they wouldn't necessarily explore. Is it an I won't? And I can tell you, this is my favorite. I won't pay because their sub-trade didn't come in and do something on time and it caused issues. I want to sue them. I want to take them to court. It's $7,000, $10,000. Great. By the time it's all said and done, it's going to cost you, $2,000 to sue him? If the guy gives you $8,000, would you take it? And all of a sudden, we start getting into that negotiating. Because I'm not actually involved, I can remove the emotion and I can take it with a clear head. We can have that negotiating piece. So it's a really matter of looking at whether it's an I can't or an I won't situation.